Next up, we have another great speaker. Please put your hands together for Melissa from Ellevest.
Hi, I am Melissa Cullens. I am the Chief Experience Officer at Ellevest. We are an investing company specifically targeted to women. When I got the invitation to speak to you all this afternoon, I thought a lot about what we could talk about. I talk a lot about designing for women, obviously, but I thought it might be fun to do something a little bit more broad. Yeah, I'm gonna need this. So before I became Chief Experience Officer at Ellevest, I started out my career as a graphic designer at a sports marketing agency, where I spent a lot of my time, there we go, that's the one, making what's called a hero card, which is a giant baseball card for NASCAR drivers and for rodeo stars, and making cereal boxes covered with athletes. And as rewarding and fulfilling as all of that was, I have always been the kid Thank you. Oh, my clicker's working. That one? Okay. Thank you. Bad at sports. I've never been the kid that kicked the ball. I was always the one who stepped on it. So, not super rewarding work, not really into sports. Moved to New York, went from becoming a graphic designer, come on guys, to becoming a communication designer at a place called Smart Design. So if y'all are familiar with Smart, you know that they do the vegetable peelers. I got so much great experience there, learning about behavior, going to people's homes and watching how they solve problems on their own, understanding the context and the environment in which they were working with different things, and the mental models that they brought to the table when they were encountering those problems. From there, I became a visual interaction designer at a place called SY Partners, a consulting firm. I was specifically there doing like teamwork tools, digital tools. Still have no idea what that title means. Then I became a creative strategist at a place called Code and Theory, where I got to spend a lot of time working on publications. Most notably, I got to redesign Vogue, help their editorial team redeliver content in a way that was much more within the trend of kind of perpetual news, but also special highlights for things like Fashion Week, while at the same time supporting their business by virtue of advertising that doesn't disrupt the reading experience. So from there, head of design at Ellevest, now chief of experience. And for anyone reading between the lines, what you might notice is that I've had kind of a hard time getting hired. My background is weird. I have a degree in business and also fine art in painting, portraiture actually, and a master's degree in graphic design. Then I have this weird career filled with different experience on products. And for me, it always felt really normal. I was just a designer, you know. You think about the brand, you think about the product, those two things are experienced together. How could you possibly create a brand without creating the product that goes with it? How could you create a product without knowing how the brand is going to speak to your audience? But, as many of us know, companies scale, teams split, they end up reporting in to different executives with different KPIs, different cadences of work, and it's kind of weird, right? Because for us on the other end, the people who are using the products, it's just one experience. The ad that you see that drives you to download the app should ultimately feel the same, but sometimes, in the worst cases, the thing that's advertised is not the thing that's delivered. So when I got the opportunity to take on the job at Ellevest, I was the 5th employee. It was this really great opportunity to test my hypothesis that maybe all of this weird background might be really useful because we didn't have a brand designer, we didn't have a marketing team, we still don't have a CMO. trying to figure out how the product works, what the people need, and how they're going to respond, especially for an audience as persnickety and smart and very, very aware consumers as women. How do you create a product that serves them? You can't do it in isolation. You can't develop a brand and then develop a product and slap the brand onto it and hope that it's going to work out, because women are too smart. They're used to it. I think you've all seen Lady Doritos. You know what's up. So, testing out the hypothesis that the tools that I had earned as a brand designer and the tools that I had earned as a product designer could actually support the overall experience development. So far, so good. We've won a few awards. And of course, this isn't just my work. I have an amazing team, really incredible peers on my leadership team, and just an incredible group of people who are super devoted to closing the gender money gaps across the board. But getting to join an organization as the fifth person, you get to have an opportunity to set the culture. And when we all came together to really understand the context, the problems, the behaviors that were existing that were keeping women from investing to the same extent that men were, we were able to actually, all of us together, no matter whether you're an engineer or a product manager or a marketing manager, develop an experience that serves the user, serves her problems, serves her needs in a way that is truly resonant. So let's break it down. Product designers, we think about how things work, right? We're really interested in making sure the navigation is clear, that you can get from point A to point B, that any task that needs to be completed can be completed easily and intuitively without a lot of effort. In fact, we measure around that. We think about how many screens are in a journey, what happens to get to A to B, but what happens if C occurs or Z occurs, or like, oh my God, the whole thing shuts down and your vendor stops working. All of those are the things that we have to consider. But if we consider them without remembering that there's an emotional relationship that's being developed through those screens, we miss an opportunity to deliver on meaning. I honest to God think that testing wireframes alone in a user testing environment is a lot like going on a date with a robot. You get a really good sense of the conversation, you know what's being said, you know what task you can complete, but that doesn't mean you want to. And as brand designers, we're really focused on how things feel. We think about the cultural moment. How are we using typography and color to be resonant within the space? How are we making sure that the way that images and messages are set together on the screen are delivering the most complex message or sitting in opposition to each other in the right way? But if you don't know what her problem is, if you don't know the context that she's solving it in, if you don't know the people that she's talking to about solving that problem, it is very hard to deliver a message that's going to be resonant. Building a brand without empathy for the context and behavior of your audience is all style and no substance, which, as we all know, is how you get kicked off the Great British Baking Show. So, without any further ado, I pulled together 5 things that we do at Ellevest that I think are particularly helpful in terms of helping us kind of combine brand thinking and product thinking, kind of no matter where you sit on the team. So I think the first is all about accepting the limitations of testing user experience or wireframes in isolation. So everything tells a story, right? Even your wireframes do. They tell a story that you're not very interesting, that you don't have any human emotion, that there's just not really much behind the people who made the product that your user is sitting on the other side of. And with everything, but especially in money, people want to know if they can trust you. And your user experience, that online experience, is 90% of the way people are going to make a decision about whether or not you're for them. So if you don't show your personality as a part of that, you're losing an opportunity to start to build a human relationship. Style actually changes the way that words are understood. I've seen different types of imagery change the way that people understand information. So the best user experience can be thwarted by bad branding. And so when you go back and think about doing your user research, Don't be afraid to ask about emotion. Don't be afraid to value the moment that you hear laughter, the moment that you hear a smile in someone's voice when they're moving through your experience, because those are the moments where you're building that relationship. Some of the questions that we like to use in order to kind of get a sense for whether or not we're building something that feels resonant is Ellevest right for you? Why or why not? This is one of my favorite questions because she'll tell you about the features that she's just gone through, and she's, oh, well, you know, I really like this, and like, I would definitely use that, or like, this was stupid, why did you think that was important? But you'll also hear her tell you about how your brand reflects her. What is it about her values or her as a person that she sees in your experience that she feels like she's a part of, or she doesn't feel like she's a part of? Does Ellevest remind you of anything? So to build on the previous question, this is an opportunity for her to tell you about the brands that she loves. And it's also for her to put you in context with those other brands. Are you a helpful brand? Are you a convenience brand? Are you an educational brand? And you might find out that you're something entirely different than you thought you were, which enables you to think about your whole experience end to end. It informs your marketing and informs your product. Is a company trustworthy? It's pretty obvious. And how would you describe Ellevest to your best friend? This is my favorite, because now you're asking her to make a pitch for you. So she's coming back and she's explaining to you, and sometimes she hates us, and I also love those. Why or why not she would recommend you to her friend. This is your NPS score, but it's alive. And she may have told you that the most important thing was the ability to specify the amount that she can invest at any given time. But then when she goes back to talk about who you are to her best friend, she'll say something completely different that's about the emotional quality that she gets when she's with you and participating in your experience. Which brings me to something that we don't really think about, or at least I haven't seen a whole lot of places do, which is run user research on your marketing materials, run user research on your advertising, run user research on your social posts. Because you can get a lot out of a multivariate test. You can get a lot from what happens in the comments. You can get so much from what happens in the comments. We'll talk about that later. But being able to watch someone move through your whole brand gives you a different perspective on how they appreciate what's actually happening. So everything tells a story. Right now at Ellevest, we're actually testing some different versions of our marketing site. And we have 2 pages that are exactly the same new homepage that we're thinking about launching. The only change is in the navigation. In one of them, we've explicitly laid out exactly what all the products were, because we thought, well, not sure that everybody understands exactly what it is that we offer, so we want to be really explicit about it. And then the other, we kind of group them according to services. The first one, she gets onto the page, she's moving through, and she's like, ugh, I don't want to have to, I'm going to have to hook everything up to this, and like, this is a lot of work, and I don't know. The second that we switched the framework in the navigation to tell a story about the benefits that we offered her, she was thrilled about what she could do with us. And that was literally the only thing that we changed on the page. I was shocked. My CEO was shocked. So that gives you a really good idea about why it's really important to not just test the part of the experience that you're working on. We all have to focus on small aspects of our products and small aspects of our branding. But if we only look at those and we don't look at all of the other pieces, you're not getting a full picture of what's happening for her in her context. So early days at Ellevest, we're thinking of our flow a lot like this. And we're looking at the funding flow and we're like, numbers could be higher here. Why don't we see about just like rejiggering some stuff? We're going to take away some screens, we're going to add some screens, we're going to move the button around, try a bunch of stuff, not really seeing any traction. Don't really know why we're not seeing anything go forward until finally we take a step back and we test the whole flow and we find out that she didn't know we were an investing firm. So imagine her surprise when we ask her to give us money. You can't figure out what's happening throughout the entire funnel if you're not sure that the messaging you're delivering at the top meets the expectations that are happening in the bottom. Oh, and also, there are a lot of things that you can't control. And there are a lot of places that she's going that you may not know about or you may not realize are actually driving conversion for you. So if you're not asking her to perform a test that's a lot more like how she would normally behave, These are all things that you're missing out on. These are all opportunities that might lead back to client conversion that you're just not seeing. So finally, using social media as a testing ground for new ideas. We have an amazing community. I think we have 80% of all of the wealth management engagement on all of Instagram out of everybody. Sorry, guys. But it's a great place for us to do a lot of thinking about how we look at new ideas. It's also a great place for us to step in it every once in a while. So about a year ago, we heard a lot from our clients about how much she wanted to understand, how much do I need for retirement? It's this big number, none of us really understand. Well, God, like that's millions of dollars, that's insane, that can't be right. How much do I need right now? So we were like, oh, okay, well, we'll like break it down for you. We'll help you figure out like year by year how much you're supposed to have. And then, you know, we'll do some Ask Sallies with our founder. She'll kind of talk you through it. It'll be great. We'll answer your question. We did not answer her question. We pissed her off. Because this number, 3x your salary by 40, is completely tone deaf if you are a woman of color or if you have student loans. It is impossible for you to meet that number. For many of our users, many of our clients, it's just not something that she felt was an open dialogue like so many other things about our experience. And so we took this feedback, and over the last year, we've been iterating towards a retirement message that's about personalized milestones that help you identify the person you want to be in retirement, and then think about how you're supposed to get there and what an appropriate number is for you. So, top 5. Try to test UI and UX at the same time, or if you can't, just know what you're getting into. Don't be afraid to listen for smiles and happiness when people are testing, or listen to them get really irritated. Run usability research on your marketing materials. Test the whole flow, everything you can. Test your competitors. That's another great thing to do. If you have somebody that's really killing it in the category, you want to know why, run a test on their site, find out. And then look to your social media following as a place for new ideas and a way to kind of workshop new thinking. If we can design things holistically, from end to end, we can build a great business. But if we can build a relationship with our clients through design, we can actually change the relationship that they have with money.